Hello and welcome to my class. In this video, I am going to discuss the salient features and examples of order Hemiptera. Let me start with a disclaimer. There is absolutely no way that I can do justice to this extremely diverse order under 20 minutes. Any reasonable textbook of entomology requires about 100 pages to discuss this order's characters, classifications, and examples. So in this video, you are just going to get a gist of this order. The members of this order are known as the true bugs. They vary greatly in size. They can be extremely small or they can measure up to 110 to 140 millimeters. Most of the members of this order are terrestrial, but there are some aquatic as well as semi-aquatic forms available. They are found all over the world, but they are more abundant in tropical regions. The most important character of this order is their piercing and sucking mouth parts. I will discuss about this in a little while. Another important character is the presence of scutellum. Scutellum is this triangular sclerite present on the mesonotum. Mesonotum is the dorsal tergum of the mesothorax. This scutellum is present at the base of the wings. Just looking at this scutellum and the piercing and sucking mouth parts, you can characterize any insect under order Hemiptera. In most cases, their body is dorsoventrally flattened. They are economically important insects because many of the members of this order are plant pests. That is, they damage our crops or they damage the trees of our interest. They can also be vectors of diseases, and there is one insect which is economically beneficial to us. We can cultivate lac insect and get lac out of it. Now, here is an example of this order. This one is known as Pyrilla purpusilla. You have studied it as the sugarcane pest, and this one is Dysdarchus cingulatus. This one you are going to study as a pest of cotton. Now both of these insects belong to order Hemiptera, but as you can see that they look very different, and the most striking difference lies in their wings. So let's first discuss the characteristics of their wings. According to the type of the wing, the order Hemiptera can be divided into two suborders. The first suborder is Heteroptera and the second suborder is Homoptera. In suborder Homoptera, the wings are of uniform texture. You can see that at the apical portion there are some dots, but the whole wing's texture is more or less the same. So this has a homogeneous texture. The forewings are harder in consistency than the hind wings, but both forewings from the basal region to the apical region, their consistency is same or their texture is same. Whereas in this insect, you can see two colors in the same wing. So one wing, the right wing starts from here and it comes here and it just overlaps the wing, the left wing. Okay. So if we stretch the forewings of these type of insects, what we are going to see is that their half of the basal portion of the wing, or starting from the basal portion, half of the wing has a well sclerotized nature, or it is harder in consistency or texture, and there is a small distal part which is membranous. So this part, because it is harder in texture, this part is known as the hemielytra, and this part is the membranous part. So their hind wings are completely membranous, but their forewings, in the same wing, it has two textures. The basal part is thicker and the apical part is thinner. because half of their wing is one type and half of the wing is another type, they get the name of the order Hemiptera. So, order Hemiptera is divided according to the wing type into suborder Heteroptera and suborder Homoptera. You can also see how the wings are folded on the abdomen. Here, the wings are folded on the abdomen as a roof, or it looks like a roof. And here, they lie flat, and one wing overlaps the membranous part of the other wing. Let's go into the classification, further classification. Suborder Heteroptera can be further divided into three series. First series is Geocorici. It has four superfamilies and many families under it. It includes mainly the terrestrial insects, and most of these insects are plant pests because they suck on plant sap. Second series is Amphibicorici. They are aquatic bugs that live on water surface. So they live at the junction of water as well as land. So they belong to series Amphibicorici. There is just one superfamily under this series. The third series is Hydrocorici. It has three superfamilies. So you find mainly the aquatic bugs under this series. There is a very interesting type of insect under this series which are known as the back swimmers. They swim with their ventral side at the top. So their wings are in the water and the ventral side can be seen from the upper surface. Suborder Homoptera can be further divided into three series. The first series is Coleorhyncha, which is a very small series. It has only one family and they are not even found in India. The second series is Orchinorhyncha, which can be further divided into four superfamilies. This series includes cicadas, tree hoppers, plant hoppers, leaf hoppers, etc. So this Pyrilla purpusilla belongs to series Orchinorhyncha. Then we have series Stenorhyncha. Stenorhyncha can be further divided into four superfamilies. It includes aphids, scale insects, and whiteflies. Let's look at some more pictures. So here we can see an example of the series Amphibicorici, which can be found on the surface of water. Then we have the series Hydrocorici, which includes mainly the aquatic bugs, and you can see a back swimmer. You can see the ventral surface from the top of the water. Under suborder Homoptera, we have the cicadas, tree hoppers, plant hoppers, etc. in under series Orchinorhyncha. And under series Stenorhyncha, we have the aphids, scale insects, whiteflies, etc. Let's talk about the characters of the head. According to the suborder, the head is also very different. In Heteroptera, the head is porrect or it is extended forward. It makes a rostrum and that rostrum can be folded backwards, but the head is extended forward. In Homoptera, the head is deflexed or it is bent downward or backward. You can see the piercing and sucking mouthparts here. And here you cannot see the piercing and sucking mouthpart, which will be in the ventral side. But I will show you more pictures of this suborder where it will be clear to you. Let's talk about the piercing and sucking mouthparts in a little bit more detail. The piercing and sucking mouthpart, or commonly known as the beak of the hemipterans, is made of different mouthparts. The upper lip or labrum, the lower lip or labium, and the mandibles and maxillae, they together form the beak. The labrum is the top portion, and here from the side view you can see a pair of mandibles and a pair of maxillae, and here is the labium or the lower lip. The labium holds the two pairs of mandibles and maxillae together, and the labrum kind of holds them from the top portion. So when the beak is ready to pierce and suck, it looks like this. But if you stretch it or if it is relaxed, it can be looked like this. Now, when the beak looks like this, you can make a section and you can see it here. This is one condition where the beak is open and all the four stylets are loose. Each of these needle-like projections, which are mandibles and maxillae, they are known as the stylets. So here, number 2 represents the maxillae and number 1 represents the mandibles. When the beak is ready to pierce, they come together and they join as a lock and key model. And here you can see as they join each other, a channel is formed. Actually, two channels are formed. The first channel is for suction. This number 3 represents the channel for suction, and the number 4 represents the channel for pumping out saliva. So sometimes saliva is pumped out into the tissue to make it liquidy, and then it is sucked through the channel for suction. So all you need to remember here is that they have piercing and sucking mouth parts, which can also be known as a beak, and it is formed by a pair of maxillae, a pair of mandibles, and the lower lip or labium. The maxillae and mandibles form the stylets, and the labium kind of covers them together. When the stylets go in, you can see that they are really fine and needle-like. When these parts go in, the labium remains outside and it forms like a curvy structure. And these four stylets go inside. And when they go inside, they go like one needle-like part which will have these two channels. This one is for suction of the plant sap or for any other juice, and this is for pumping out saliva. Here you can see in this video a small mouth part here. The bug is on my hand and it is trying to pierce, but it is a plant pest. It cannot pierce through my skin. My skin is just too tough for it. Okay, but here you can see that its mouth parts is kind of bent downward and backward. Okay, so it is a heteropteran insect. It has a rostrum like structure and the mouth parts are bent downward and below. Let's move on to thorax. In Heteroptera, the pronotum or the dorsal tergum of the prothorax is uniform. So there is no variation in it. The mesothorax or mesonotum is composed of a number of sclerites, in which the scutellum or this triangular sclerite is very prominent, and it is one important character of suborder Heteroptera of order Hemiptera. In Homoptera, the pronotum is small except in family Membracidae, which I am going to show you in a little while, and the mesothorax is large and the metathorax is well developed. So in Heteroptera, the pronotum has no diversity, it is uniform. The mesonotum contains the scutellum and it is made of a number of sclerites. Scutellum is just one of them. And the metanotum is very variable. It can be of many different sizes based on the species. In Homoptera, the pronotum is small except for family Membracidae, And I'm going to show you the difference between Membricidae and other families very soon. And the mesothorax is large and metathorax is well developed. So first one is small, second one is large, and the third one is well developed. Okay. Here is the pronotum of family Membricidae. I am just showing you two examples here, and these are also known as the tree hoppers. You see how unique their prothorax is, and their pronotum, the dorsal tergum of the prothorax, it makes this unique structures. Okay, so this is the characteristic of family Membricidae. No other family makes these kind of structures. Let's talk about the abdomen. The abdomen is 11 segmented. In Cicadidae, or the family of cicadas, the first two segments are modified for sound production. The number of well-defined segments are reduced in many species. So embryologically, there are 11 segments, but as the insect grows bigger, they may have 11 segments or they may have reduced segments, or you can see only a few segments. The segmentation is obscured in aphids and coccids, or coccids are the scale insects. Sarsi are absent in this order. The ovipositor is made up of three valves derived from 8th and 9th stana in many Order Hemiptera. So the 8th and 9th stana means the ventral tergum of the abdomen. Okay, so the ovipositor is made of three valves which are derived from the 8th and 9th stana in many Order Hemiptera. In Heteroptera, most species have a small ovipositor made up of two valves, whereas those which insert their eggs into the plant tissue, they have well-developed ovipositors of three valves. So, in case of Order Hemiptera, the ovipositor is always made up of three valves. But in Heteroptera, Orchinorhyncha, if you remember, it belongs to suborder Homoptera. But in Heteroptera, what happens is that the ovipositor is small and it is made up of two valves. But in some Heteropterans, the ovipositor is used to insert the eggs inside the plant tissue. In those cases, the ovipositor is made of three valves. In males, the external genitalia are developed from the 8th and the 9th stana. In Heteroptera and Orchinorhyncha, the 9th sternum is enlarged with a pair of lateral claspers, which are very useful for copulation. The membrane between the 9th and 10th sterna are invaginated to form a cavity which lodges the median penis and a pair of parameres. This is median, not mephian. Okay. Each ovary consists of a number of ovarioles. The spermathecae and two or three tubular or globular accessory glands are also present in females. So spermatheca is the gland or glandular structure that retains the sperm after mating. So the number of ovarioles in the ovary can vary depending on the species, and it can also have the spermathecae as well as other tubular or globular accessory glands, which can be useful for mating or for laying eggs. Male organs also show a lot of variation. In Heteroptera, the testis usually comprises 7 follicles. The vasa differentia at some point are swollen to form the seminal vesicles. Seminal vesicle is the part where the sperm is stored before mating. Accessory glands range from 1 to 2 pairs. In Homoptera, the testis may consist of a single follicle as in coccids or scale insects, or 4 or 5 in Psyllidae. Psyllidae is the order of the plant lice. They can lie free or they can be united in a common sheath. Common sheath means that a sheath or a membrane-like structure will contain all the follicles of the testis. Accessory glands are present in suborder Hemiptera as well. Let's talk about the metamorphosis. These are exopterygote insects. Exopterygote insects means that they will have egg, nymph and adult stages in its life cycle. However, there are many variations in this, and in the males of the coccids, you can even find a pupal stage. So these are exopterygote insects. They usually have the nymphal instars, but only there are some exceptions where you can even find the pupal stage. There is huge variation seen in the size and shape of the egg in different families. They can vary in many different shapes. They can be of many different sizes. They can be laid in many different numbers and in batches or singularly. So there are a lot of variation possible even in egg laying. Viviparity or the birth of young, where the egg hatches inside the mother and the young is born from the mother, has been reported in Polyctinidae and among parthenogenetic aphids. Oviparity or ovoviviparity and viviparity are noticed in coccids. Metamorphosis in Hemiptera is gradual or incomplete. Usually you would see incomplete metamorphosis. But there is a significant change that occurs in the last nymphal mold which gives rise to the adult. So there is a lot of difference between the last nymphal stage and the adult. The number of instars also vary. There are about 6 instars in Xyla and Empoasca. There are 5 instars in aphids. There are 4 in alliroids and Apteros phylloxeridae. There are 7 instars in cicada. There are 3 instars in females and 4 in male coccids. And in male coccids, you can find even a pupal stage. And it can also be found in both sexes, males and females, of alliroids. Let's talk about stridulation. We have already talked about stridulation in order Orthoptera, where the males make the sound to attract the female. In Hemiptera, stridulation is also a very important character, but here the acoustic signaling is not meant only for attracting the females. It can have many other purposes. It can be of defensive behavior. They make a strong sound which can repel their potential predators. It can be a cause for signaling alarm or distress. It can also be symbolic of territoriality, that if one species is making the sound in one territory, then the other species would avoid that territory. And there can be vibratory signals for reproductive purposes, which may be produced by males and or females, leading to aggregation to mate attraction, courtship and copulation. So if for reproductive purposes the sound is made, it is often of vibratory signals. And once the males and or females make these vibratory signals, it leads to aggregation of the insects, and then from this aggregation there is mate attraction. One male can be attracted to another female. There would be courtship or some behavior before the copulation, and finally the copulation. Non-receptive females may sing to reject copulation. So if they do not want copulation, if they want to avoid the male, then they can do male deterring stridulation. It is found in subfamily Triatomidae and in Pentatomidae. This information is quoted from this paper. Another characteristic feature of Order Hemiptera is their odor gland or scent gland, colloquially known as the sting gland too. There are some odoriferous or repugnatorial glands which are characteristic of large number of Hemiptera. In most Heteroptera, they open to the exterior near the coccyx of the hind legs by means of ventral pores or slits. You must have come across stink bugs, which if you touch, your hands stink for a long time. You will study about Leptocoryza vericornis, which is also known as rice gandhi bug. It stinks so much that if this insect is present in rice fields, then you can smell it when you go close to the field. So that one is a pest of rice. Now, sometimes the members of order Hemiptera form mutualistic relationship with ants. Here you can see minute aphids which are present on this leaf, and they are being taken care of by these ants. What kind of reward these ants are going to get from these aphids? The aphids secrete honeydew. They suck the plant sap and then they kind of make some concentrated sugary juice which they secrete from their abdomen. And the ants tend them to get that honeydew. That honeydew is of no use to the aphids. They just make it. But that is of use for the ants who feed on that honeydew. Now, what are the aphids going to get out of the ants? The ants give them protection. The aphids are very favorite food of ladybug beetles larvae, or many other insects can also predate on aphids. The ants render protection to these aphids and the aphids provide them with honeydew. Similarly, some mealybugs also form mutualistic relationships with ants. You can see that these insects here, they are much bigger. Please look at this small insect here. This is not another species. This is the male of the mealybug. Remember I said that in coccids, the males go through pupation and the females don't. These are the females and these winged individuals are the males. And these ants are again tending them so that they can get the honeydew out of them and they offer them protection. Not just that, this is a problem for the gardeners and the farmers. For many plants, these mealybugs, when they attack the plants become dry or yellow. Here you can see that hibiscus is a very important horticultural plant and mealybugs attack them. But mealybugs do not come here on their own. The ants bring them here. So the ants take them in their mouth and they put them at the tender parts of the plant or the apical parts of the plant where the mealybugs can get plenty of food from the plant sap. And they produce the honeydew which these ants get as a reward. So the problem that gardeners face is that even if they remove the mealybugs, if they do not destroy them, if they just drop them on the ground, then ants again collect them and put them back on the trees. Let's talk about some examples. For example, for suborder Heteroptera, there are many different insects, but I have given you names of only a few. Acanthespis siva is a predator of bees. They wait near the path of the worker bees. They attack them and they suck juice out of the bee's abdomen. Then we have the bed bugs or Cymex species. We have Dysdarchus cingulatus, which is also known as the red cotton bug. You are going to study about this insect. Then we have Leptocoryza vericornis, which is rice gandhi bug. This is a pest of cotton and this is a pest of rice. We are going to study both of them in this course. Then Paradacina species, which is the cashew chorid. And of course, there are stink bugs or pentatomid bugs under suborder Heteroptera. Under suborder Homoptera, there are many other insects. There are tree hoppers like Tricentrus bicolor. There is cotton leaf hopper or Empoasca devastans. We are going to study this one. Then Pyrilla purpusilla or sugarcane leaf hopper. Hopefully you have watched my video on Pyrilla purpusilla. Diaphorina citri or the Citrus scylla. We are going to study about this insect as well. Scylla is also known as the plant lice. Then Bemisia tabaki or the cotton whitefly. We are going to study about this one too. Then Apis gossypi or the cotton aphid and Rossica mangiferi or the mango millibug. We are going to study this insect as well. So I have here given you the examples of the insects which we are going to study later. And once we study the life cycle, their nature of damage and their external characteristics, you will obviously remember those examples more easily. So all the information in this video are collected from these two books, and hopefully you like this video, and please come back for my next video which will be on order Isoptera.